So what happens when men do not have sex for a year? Or should I say for prolonged periods of time? There's so many videos, there's so much content, there's different research on the internet about semen retention, but is it actually a thing? Is it worth it? Are there any benefits psychologically, physically, or biologically? I mean, what really happens when you abstain for a year, and is it worth it? In today's video, I'm going to get Dr. Kelvin Owusu to answer this question right now. So stay tuned if you've always been curious about it. I mean, semen retention, is it the way to go? Or should you just continue living your life as normal? What's going on with you?
It's good to be back. I mean, it's always exciting to engage with your subscribers here or your family. I mean, it's always amazing. I love interacting with them in the comment section. It gets very good.
Yeah, I actually been seeing you do that. So thank you very much for, I mean, not just making time for these recordings, but actually taking time to also answer personal questions. A lot of them come through, as you can see. But, well, hopefully today we can bring a lot more clarity to this subject, because you hear people talk about semen retention, for instance, you know, which happens obviously if you stay away from sex for prolonged periods of time. But the big question everybody wants to know is it really something that benefits men, or is it just maybe an ego thing? You know, some guy being able to tell you, look, I haven't done it for so long and I'm a better man, I'm an alpha male. I mean, what really is the conversation here medically? And that's why I had to bring you in. So, I mean, let's jump right into it. Are there any benefits at all, you know, from abstaining from sex as a man?
So the simple, straightforward answer really is that there's no health benefit necessary from abstaining from sex for a period of time. I mean, of course, on the flip side, there's also no number of times that a man should have sex to stay healthy. So it's one of those gray area kind of subjects, you know, where you have sex when you actually have the chance for opportunity. I mean, just take it, you know, because whether you abstain or you don't abstain, well, it's very subjective. And indeed, a lot of the benefits that people have alluded to, the semen retention you speak about, is more of a mental, psychological edge that they get. And you see, when it comes to men, ego is a big thing. So if something is going to give them a psychological boost, hey, go for it, because it's definitely going to show in your performance. I mean, if a man feels good about himself, he's going to perform much better. Which is why, for instance, if a woman knows how to make a man feel good about himself, you know, maybe a compliment here and there, encourage him to do this and that, it helps. And that's why when men are with women who give them encouragement, you know, give them direction, okay, so do me this way, do this way, you're doing very well, keep going, they tend to perform a lot better than women who are quiet. You know, I haven't met a man who enjoys having sex with a quiet woman, you know, because it doesn't give you motivation. And men thrive on ego, they thrive on motivation, they thrive on being told they are doing a good job, keep doing it, you know. So
Feedback.
the psychological edge, yes, exactly. So the psychological edge is definitely a much needed, should I say, a much needed spice in everything that we do as men. So yes, in that respect, then there is a benefit to, you know, semen retention, because it boosts your ego.
Right. But let's talk about maybe what happens biologically or physically, so to speak, when men do not have sex for prolonged periods of time. Are there any things worthy of note?
Okay, so let me take that from the flip side. You know, now the benefit, one of the key benefits, apart from obviously procreation, you know, the next benefit of sex to a man is actually that it helps. It's a fat burner, you know. So, by way of exercise, it helps you to, you know, stay healthy, to stay fit, you know. So that's what sex does for you. There's also a theory that sex helps you to be a bit more creative. And of course, there are challenges. People have also challenged that theory, you know. But there is this concept where they talk about transmutation of sexual energy, where it talks about how if a man is able to abstain from sex and channel the energy that he would have used to pursue the lady, or even the energy that he'd have expended in going through the sex act, he channel that energy to something else. It sort of boosts their creativity, boosts their performance, it makes them more productive, you know. And indeed, the proponents of this theory have cited a lot of people, Einstein, you know, they named so many people who practice this transmutation of sexual energy, and we are seeing their results today. So that's why in the beginning I mentioned that the benefits tend to be more of a psychological edge than a physical thing. You see, because if you don't have sex, the body pretty much reallocates the resources that would have been expended during the sex act into other areas. So that's what gives credence to the transmutation of sexual energy theory. You see, but speaking from a male perspective, what typically happens is that a lot of men are able to actually stay off sex for a while. But when they go off, when they break off the abstinence and let's say they engage in sex, then there's a period afterwards where they want to keep having it, because if they don't have it, it's kind of like for lack of a better description, it's like an addiction. When you are going cold turkey on, let's say, alcohol or smoking, the first few days is the most terrible. So the same thing, if you are not having sex, if you can go a long time, months without having sex, but the minute you actually start having sex, going back to abstinence is a bit difficult, because in that short period, you've experienced a good thing and you want more of that good thing. So it's quite a challenging phase for any man, to be honest, especially men in committed long-term relationship, where they go through a phase of, should I say, psychological turmoil, when their partner is, for instance, not allowing them to actually have sex when they want to have sex. So
Right.
it's heavily psychological, as opposed to being a physical and health benefit.
But what is to say for things like maybe your testosterone level? Would it drop? Is it how does it get affected as a man?
So now the thing is, testosterone is not only, yes, testosterone plays a key role in your sex drive or your sex age for that matter. In fact, it's testosterone that makes men horny most of the time, because male testosterone is definitely higher. And women also have testosterone, which is at its peak during ovulation, which is why most women are more likely to engage in sex when they are ovulating. It's because nature is strict, strictly. It wants you to actually get pregnant. So that's why testosterone level goes up at that time. But let's park that. Let's park that for now. Sex is not the only thing that would cause testosterone levels to go up. Generally, men engage in a lot of, should I say, dangerous activities, as they go through their day. Most men work in high pressure, high energy areas, risky ventures. And testosterone is the hormone that sort of keep them on edge at all times, to want to look for the adventure, look for the fun, in quotes. So once a man is still engaged in all these things, the testosterone level is going to be sustained to an extent. So sex will not, or the lack of sex will not necessarily cause a drop in your testosterone levels. However, a drop in testosterone levels can affect your sex drive. So it's the other way around, rather. A lack of sex will not cause your testosterone levels to go down, but a lack of testosterone or a decline in testosterone levels will cause your sex drive to go down. Because like I said, testosterone is the hormone that makes you horny, makes you want to engage in sex and dangerous activities for that matter. So once the levels go down, then your drive, your libido, your ability to sustain an erection, all those things are affected. So when men come in with erection problems, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, or any of those related issues, one of the key hormones that we actually check is testosterone and things related to testosterone, because they are hormones that are released from the brain as well, the pituitary gland and other areas, which regulates testosterone levels. So you want to make sure that all these hormones are normal. So if all these hormones are normal and testosterone level is still low, then it gives us an idea where the problem is coming from. If the reverse is the case, where the hormones from the brain are not normal, it gives an indication where the problem is coming from. So it helps us to localize the problem. So all these are important, because testosterone is what gives you your sex drive. Pretty much. I mean, that's the summary.
Well, Doc, before you go any further, let me just mention that today's video is sponsored by Joy Mode. Now, this is a sexual performance booster which serves like a pre-workout, but for sex, if you know what I mean. Now, if you want to really enhance your performance in the act and make it enjoyable, not just for you, but for the woman you're with, then try this out today. All you need to do is to take it 40 minutes to 4 hours before the act, and you should be in a great place. I mean, you're going to witness increased blood flow, stronger erections, and so much more. So Joy Mode is for you. And because you watch this particular channel, I've got a 20% discount coming your way on your first purchase. Just go to usejoymode.com/JessicaOS or put Jessica OS in at checkout to experience your 20% discount. You're welcome. Let's get back to the video. So that then sort of makes sense that men who do abstain are able to go, once they get through maybe, like you're saying, the withdrawal stage where, okay, you've been having sex all your life and you're suddenly telling yourself, okay, you know what, for reason A, B, and C, I'm not going to have sex anymore for a certain period of time. It explains why, and the link you just made between testosterone and low libido explains why maybe they're able to continue in such a fashion for such prolonged periods.
I mean, it does in a way. I mean, because your body kind of needs to recharge after sex anyway. That's why you have the refractory period, you see, because you cannot just keep going. I mean, you are going to explode at some point. So after every round, you have to go through a refractory phase for the body to sort of reorient itself, And also, depending on how frequent you actually have sex, there are differences that you notice in the semen dynamics. So for instance, typically if you were to do multiple rounds of sex, the first round you have take semen, but as you go to the second round, the subsequent rounds, the semen becomes lighter. It doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of the sperm is poor. It doesn't mean that at all, but it just means that the body didn't recover fully enough to give you the full components. Of course, if you're a woman and you're trying to avoid pregnancy, it doesn't matter whether it's round 1, round 2, or round 10. You could still get pregnant because as for the sperm, it's there, ever ready,
Ever ready.
And so you don't want to get exactly, you don't want to get yourself in that situation. But the reality too is that at some point, every man needs a break. Because if even if you don't willingly take that break, your body will put a pause at some point. There's actually something called andropause. Just as women have menopause, men also have andropause. And this is a natural decline in testosterone levels. It will happen to every man. So as you grow older, I guess your point that your testosterone level will drop, and so your libido and your sex drive will also drop. I mean, and we see it in committed relationships as well, where in the beginning, when you are younger or the relationship is fresh, you are having sex 2 times a day, sometimes even 3 times a day. As the relationship progresses, even to get sex once a week is not easy, and it's not just about maybe. I mean, the typical excuse would have been that the woman is not available. There are situations where the woman is ready, but the man is not. It's not like he's tired, he's out of it.
Right.
Probably because he is indeed tired or the testosterone level is low. So if such a man, for instance, has this feeling of, not feeling the urge to go have sex even when the woman is ready, that's the person that probably needs his testosterone level to be evaluated, because it could just be something hiding in the background, making him feel like that. But naturally, your sexual urge or your sexual desires will decline as you grow older. So I guess the best time to have sex when you're younger. So all the sex you can have right now.
Right. Well, it makes a lot of sense. Is there any maybe case to be made for something like prostate health? Because I guess there's, I don't know, information out there that maybe the more regular you ejaculate, you reduce your risk of cancer, for instance.
Well, there is that feeling, and in fact, it's an area that is currently being researched by a lot of institutions. So the data is not too clear cut yet. Even though there seems to be a suggestion that the more sex you have, or the more you ejaculate, the better it is for your prostate. Now, I needed to specify because sex is not the only way to ejaculate. So the emphasis on the number of times a man ejaculates, that's what actually gives him the prostate protection in quotes. Because the prostate gland plays a key role in sex. There are secretions that come from the prostate gland that forms part of semen. And so it helps the health of the sperm. Having said that, if the prostate gland is affected and it needs to be removed, it has to go. And there are other glands in the space that can substitute for the prostate gland. So it doesn't also mean that because the prostate gland contributes to semen, you're not going to deal with your prostate enlargement or prostate cancer, because that will kill you. So it's important that we take care of our prostate, especially if you are 40 years and above. But that age 40 is for people who don't have any family history. So if you're a man and you have a family history, maybe your father had a prostate issue or your grandfather had a prostate issue, you would need to start your screening much earlier than 40. So don't just listen to the 40 and be walking around waiting for 40. If there's family history, start screening as soon as possible so that if there's any problem, you catch it quickly and deal with it as soon as possible. Here's the thing. All prostate glands will enlarge as the man grows older. However, not all the enlargements will result in clinical symptoms. In other words, not all men who have prostate enlargements will end up in hospital because of the prostate enlargement.
Right.
But if you were to do a scan on men as they grow older, about 90% of men will have prostate enlargement. And so that's that fact. So whether you have sex or you're not having sex, your prostate will get bigger. Now, what we're actually talking about is prostate cancer specifically. Prostate cancer is where the research is heading towards to try and find a connection between the frequency of ejaculation and whether your risk of prostate cancer will reduce if you ejaculated more often. And it's not, we don't have categorical information yet. There are snippets of information here and there. I mean, if you went on Google, you get a lot of information, but there's no scientific document to fully back the statement that the more sex you have or the more ejaculation you have, the lower your risk of prostate cancer. We don't have that definitive statement as yet. Hopefully, eventually we will get somewhere. But until then, I mean, just have sex and do the prostate screening as often as you can, especially as you grow older.
All right. Cool. I mean, this is coming from a medical doctor, so we will take your word for it. We absolutely will. Let's move away from, maybe the biological conversation a little bit. And I mean, I know you're a medical doctor, but certainly you'll be able to give us a link between everything that's going on, men who decide to abstain from sex for long periods of time, and maybe their psychological state of mind, referencing things like stress, anxiety. Do these come to play at all?
And like I said, the benefits of this abstinence, obviously, I mean, if you're abstaining from sex, your risk of getting an STI is far, far lower. I mean, you're not going to get an STI if you're not having sex with other people, So that's definitely a physical benefit that you can get from it. However, apart from that, the biggest area of benefit that you stand to get is more on the psychological or the mental side. Where because you've been able to do this, it means that you are in control, and you're in control of yourself. And some men will tell me that they're able to last longer when they abstain. So if that's what you're trying to achieve, and you actually do get that, positive feedback, then it helps you to actually perform better on your next round.
Right.
But having said that, people or men typically, and this is common knowledge, men typically don't perform very well in the first round. This is because after some sort of abstinence, you're easily aroused, right? You're easily aroused, and the excitement will get into your head and you can ejaculate. So most people will tell you that don't judge me by my first round, And so it's the same with the people who are staying for prolonged duration. Most of them will not perform well in their first round. That's how it's going to be, you see. But then subsequently, they get to then show you what they are really made of. So the benefit is more psychological than it is physical.
I mean, I think that's established clearly throughout this conversation. So let me ask the final question that will sort of answer the purpose of this video. To abstain or not to as a man? I mean, semen retention, is it even important? Because a lot of people swear by it. Even right here on YouTube, you get a lot of videos that address that.
So if you ask me my medical opinion about semen retention, I would say that it is neither here nor there. It's one of those things that if it's a part of your developing self-control, and self-control is very, very key during sex, because if you cannot control your excitement, you're going to turn into a 1-minute man. So once you're able to build that self-control, and actively avoid engaging in sex, even though it is readily available, it takes a lot of effort. And so that is something that can help you when you eventually do start having sex, to take that self-control, put it in the act, and then derive the benefit by pleasuring your partner such that it comes back to you, getting the accolades, which reinforces your self-control. So it's a positive reinforcement cycle that will go a long way to make both partners very, very happy. And so for me, a man's decision to practice semen retention is just that, a personal decision. It is not necessarily a medical opinion that every man should practice semen retention, and or the other side, every man should just go and be having sex every so often. There's no accepted number of times that a man should have sex, except a couple who is trying to get pregnant. That's the only time that we have set a minimum, and that is you should have sex 3 times a week. At least every other day you should be having sex if you want to get pregnant. So that's the only time that we have set a minimum. Apart from that, you can do whatever you want to do when it comes to you and your partner and what happens.
Great. Well, at least we've set the tone as well. 3 times a week if you're trying to make babies. If not, it's really up to you and your discretion. So that's great. Doc, I'm not going to take too much of your time. Thank you for doing justice to this topic as always. And we'll definitely catch you in another one, I'm sure.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So for those of you watching and listening, I'm hoping that you got some information that perhaps you can apply to your own life and use and really take a decision on what you want to do, whether you want to go the semen retention route, which has a lot more psychological benefits than maybe should I say biological or however you want to post it or say it, or basically if you can make a decision on that, it's entirely up to you. So thank you very much for watching. If you have questions, you can drop it in the comments below. You heard Doc talk about the fact that he comes into my comments and answers some of the questions from time to time. So certainly he'll be more than happy to do that. But if you liked this content, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. My name is Jessica. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.